Robin Hood Radio presents Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens. Michele is a longtime journalist and herself is a published playwright of several theatrical works. She's a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post, Daily Beast, and the Atlantic websites.
Another opening of another show.
This week I got two off-Broadway shows, a block away from each other, by the way, which are playing through the end of the month. Now, one is a riff on Chekhov. Now, there have been many of those over the years, though none has been retitled Life Sucks until now. The other piece is written by a playwright who is becoming better known and more respected with each new work. I thought there would surely be no parallels between the shows, but wouldn't you know it? I was wrong. So at the Second Stage Theater on 43rd Street, a play has been doing well, a dark comedy called Make Believe. The writer is Bess Wall, who won a lot of fans and awards for a unique play called Small Mouth Sounds. Now, that one cleverly spoke to many things without speaking at all. It followed a diverse group of strangers at a silent retreat, proving how much we can learn about people through other means. Anyway, I was looking forward to what Wall would do next. Well, Make Believe is about one of my favorite subjects, one that never gets old, even as we do. That would be childhood and how we never quite leave it behind. Now, this is an 80-minute intermissionless production and takes place in a playroom attic. The first part, in the 1980s, is populated by four very young actors, two sisters, two brothers. You know what they say, the most difficult things to work with are children and dogs. Well, director Michael Grief does a superb job here with the four youngsters, and one of them spends most of his time as a dog. That's all I'm saying about that. The children are natural and funny, even when they have to say unkind and unchildlike things such as cease and desist. Eventually, they morph into their adult selves. Another four excellent actors take over and perfectly embody character traits that have endured, as so many do, and reflect the traumatic experiences that have shaped them. There's heavy material here: child abuse, parental abandonment, addiction, hidden bisexuality. But what's most surprising is how funny make-believe is. The playwright shifts tones beautifully, and every time we think, okay, we can cry now, we return to laughter, and vice versa. Now, I don't want to oversell anything here. The reviews, frankly, have been mixed. I know people who didn't even make it all the way through. But I am a sucker for stories about siblings who impact and disappoint each other, and I love so many of these words. Mom said he's dead, one girl says about their father. No, says another. She said she wishes he was dead. Where are my pills, says a little girl, making believe she is her mother. I had to work late at the office, one of her brothers utters, impersonating their father. Well, many of us had imaginary friends. This group had imaginary parents. We just have to get through this until we're grown up, says one of the children. None of us is going to have any remembrance of this. Well, how wrong he is. And I'm glad Bess Wall remembers so much of the pains and joys of childhood. Meanwhile, playing at Theater Row on 42nd Street is Life Sucks, an adaptation of Uncle Vanya by Aaron Posner. Now, he did the same with The Seagull. That one was called Stupid Effing Bird. Like Make Believe, this production also features 8 performers, and every one is top-notch. They all had big issues, shall we say, and here, too, there is great humor amid the sadness and angst. And the lines here, too, can be priceless. She hates me as only a wife can. I don't look like this in my mind. Those are just a few that I recall. While there are no children per se in this one, the adults certainly act childish a lot of the time. You're like a 6-year-old on a playground, says one. This is clearly Chekhov updated. References are to people like Bill Maher and Lena Dunham, and the ugly duckling niece of Vanya, Sonia, says at one point, if you look like me, you have to settle for the Steve Buscemi's in the world. And there is a hilarious speech about, of all things, treadmills. Well, where else do we spend so much money and time and sweat and yet go nowhere? Mostly, though, there is dialogue here about regrets, gratitude, unrequited love. And it's not soothing, by the way. The voices are loud, and in both of the plays this week, 3 beautiful actors, I might say, whose looks are a subject of admiration, are incredibly funny. My only real complaint about the Life Sucks one is it's 20 minutes too long. It runs 2.5 hours. And the breaking of the fourth wall, well, it's cute the first 3 times, but not the next 3. And the finale feels endless. I don't need the actors on stage to ask us to raise our hands if we want to sleep with one of the characters, or what we should do when we feel life sucks, or what we are grateful for, and so on. Happily, neither of these plays I saw this week sucks, and for that I am grateful. Finally, it seems every week another show may close and another new one is announced. As for the potential closings, I am keeping my eye on Beetlejuice, Oklahoma, and even Tootsie, though producers claim things pick up after the summer. I'm not sure why, but I'm hoping they're correct. I'll tell you one that won't be closing soon, off-Broadway. Yesterday, I came across a very long line on 42nd Street, and I thought, now what could this be for? Well, it was for the Yiddish version of Fiddler on the Roof, directed by Joel Grey. Yet another revival is on the way, along with West Side Story and possibly the West End production of Company. This one is Little Shop of Horrors. What's noteworthy is its cast. Jonathan Groff, who I have been watching in Netflix's series Mindhunter, and Christian Borle, who is always just plain awesome. Among original musicals, well, the most unusual one coming in the spring was announced this week, and it may be Flying Over Sunset. The subject is LSD. Now, this one comes from the prestigious Lincoln Center Theater, and it will explore the use of the drug by 3 rather disparate but famous people during the 1950s, Aldous Huxley, Claire Booth Luce, and Cary Grant. Well, there's also prestige at the top here, writer-director James Lapine and composer Thomas Kitt. So, Jill, if we can all get high on that one, well, more power to them.
Indeed. It's funny. We have something growing just by the ramp up into the station that I've been referring to as Audrey. So I'm really thrilled that...
The plant, the plant, horrors, Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah.
That's right. And maybe they'll bring that name back. Curious, do you think that the theory that things pick up is because people come back to the city? It's the season is starting again. Summer's over.
I think so. I talked to somebody involved with Tootsie, and I said, "Gee, I noticed it's on the half price, list every single day." He said, "Yeah, but we're getting good indications that after the summer." He said something about kids going back to school. I don't know why. I mean, don't you travel with your kids in the summer, and would they want to go to shows? Maybe not that show. I don't know. But yes, I assume that that's it, that just people come back and they're trying to catch up on, what they haven't seen. But I hope it doesn't close. I thought Tootsie was a lot of fun. It's also playing in an enormous theater. So it's hard to fill seats.
Does anyone get a shot at that? Do you get to choose? Do you ever get to choose where the theater is, or are you basically what's available, you've got to go in, even if it's better for a smaller size, for example?
That's a really good question, Barbara. I happen to be doing an article right now about the national tours of shows, and a very big issue for that is picking a venue that fits a show. I'm focusing on the band's visit, which is really a rather intimate show, but it's going to play in theaters. The one in LA has got over 3,000 seats. So it's how venues are picked. Sometimes there are all kinds of reasons why they're picked. Availability, of course. Back to Broadway, I would say that's the biggest issue. If a theater opens up and you've been waiting, you usually grab that theater. I don't think you say, oh, it's a little big. The one I reported on last week, the public theater show, Seawall, that has moved to the Hudson. That's a pretty big theater. It's got a couple balconies, and it's a very intimate show. But I don't know. They don't complain. They all say the same thing, that it's not about the size. That even if you're back in the balcony, you're going to feel Jake Gyllenhaal's pain just as much as if you're sitting, in the 5th row. So. You could do a lot with lighting. You could do a lot with sound effects to make things feel more fit for a show. But I don't know. It's a good question about Tootsie. I don't know why anybody would want to pick the Marquee. It's inside a hotel. It feels kind of like
An auditorium.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't know why anybody would choose that. But on the other hand, if you feel you're going to make a lot of money and sell a lot of tickets,
And if you're going to pick up from if you're going to pick up from a traveling, a tourist.
absolutely. And being in a hotel in that case is probably an advantage.
Right.
You know, so the concierge, here's 3 for our show tonight. So, as we know, they like to say it's about art as much as commerce, but as we know, you follow the money.
Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens, produced in the studios of Robin Hood Radio, robinhoodradio.com.